winery. So
Yeah.
Gianfranco, he established the winery. This is back in the 1970s. Is that correct?
76.
76.
76 is the first. The 74 is the first vintage, but the first vintage for the Barolo is 76.
76. Okay. And Gianfranco's father was Alessandro, correct?
Alessandro, yeah,
And
yeah.
he owned some vineyards.
Alessandro is now the name of our Chardonnay, so it's the grandfather of Alessandra, and they have when Gianfranco started in 1976, they have just 4 or 5 hectares in Annunziata di la Morra. Now we have 9 hectares in La Morra and 1 in Castiglione Falletto. Okay, so 8 in La Morra and 1 in Castiglione Falletto.
Okay, and were they bottling wine under the Bovio name, or were they selling most of the grapes, or?
Before, I think they sell the grapes. They sell the grapes, and then in the 1976, they decided to make Barolo in Annunziata, and now at the beginning they have just Gattera and Arborina. Then they buy the Parussi in Castiglione Falletto and Rocchette Vino in La Morra. So 2 different single vineyard. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the Barolos in a minute, but let's start. You said you produce a Chardonnay.
Yeah,
and
we produce a Chardonnay before, because the wife of Gianfranco was born in Castiglione Tinella, so in the Moscato area.
Moscato d'Asti.
Yeah. Close to Santo Stefano Belbo and Canelli. Yeah. So she has some vineyard in Castiglione Tinella, sorry, and I remember some labels of Chardonnay 98 and 99, 2000, 2001. So before they had the grapes, so they press the fruit, the grapes from Castiglione Tinella. Now, for the moment, we buy the Chardonnay grapes from Dan d'Alba, but in the next 2 years, I think in the 2022, we planted a new hectare in Annunziata di la Morra, just close our cellar of Chardonnay. Yeah.
Was this vineyard just planted to Chardonnay, or is it there been the Chardonnay vineyard for many years?
Sorry?
This vineyard you're going to have in Annunziata near the winery.
Yeah.
Did you just plant it to Chardonnay, or was it been Chardonnay for many years?
No. It's the first time for the Chardonnay. It's the first time. Before was Barbera and Sauvignon.
Okay. And I've not tasted it yet. Is it aged only in steel tanks, or do you use some oak?
No, it's in barrique.
Barrique.
The Chardonnay, yes. For the red, we use just the big barrels, so the botti. But for the Chardonnay, is maybe is a French style.
Okay. Yes.
Chardonnay. Yes. So the collie fermentation is in oak, is in barrique, French barrique, and also the malolactic fermentation is in barrique. So the process is very similar to the red, to a red wine.
Right.
So we press the grapes, and then we put after 1 or 2 days the wine in the barriques. Okay. Usually we bottle the Chardonnay now in May, June. So he rests on the barrique for 7, 8 months. Yeah.
All right. And how many bottles do you produce per year?
For the Chardonnay or in total?
For Chardonnay.
4,000.
Okay, very small.
Bottles.
Now you
Yeah,
also
yeah, yeah. Very
okay.
good.
You also produce a dolcetto d'alba.
Yeah, we produce also dolcetto, and until 2016 we have the dolcetto in La Morra, but now we have the dolcetto in Montelupo Albese. So you know Montelupo is a very small township, very close to Diano d'Alba,
Okay.
as it's very famous for the dolcetto because the soil is higher than La Morra and the Barolo area, and the soil is more sandy,
Okay.
very soft, so it's very good and it's perfect for the dolcetto. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, I'm happy that you continue to produce dolcetto. I love it. Sandro, I
Yeah,
think you talked about that, right? With dolcetto, I know you love it too.
Some years ago, the people in general don't drink Barolo because the Barolo was maybe too difficult to drink.
Yes, I
But
understand.
yeah, and the people prefer dolcetto. But now maybe I don't know. The people change maybe in the world, also in Italy.
Just to give you a reference, because sometimes when we talk about the past, it can be, you know, anywhere in the past. We just go back to the early 90s. Wineries in Barolo region, most of the wineries were making money with Dolcetto and Barbera, and with that money, that allowed those wineries to invest in Barolo, in buying land and increasing the quality of Barolo. Now maybe it's the opposite. You make enough money for Barolo that allows you to keep your vineyard of Dolcetto. And for many wineries, I think it's also a matter of, you know, here we make wine for a living, but there's also a matter of personal pride and family traditions and ties. And Dolcetto represents the family tradition, the ties with your ancestors, with your family, better than any other grape for the Langhe people.
Excellent point. Because I've heard from many producers, and some have dropped it recently, producers in Alba, that they said it's just apparently all the time they have to put in, all the man hours they have to put in to manage Dolcetto in the vineyard it takes a lot of effort, and that would be better off served, you know, in terms of money and time to work with Nebbiolo.
Remember that
you charge more money for Nebbiolo. Go ahead, Sandro.
Dolcetto is easy to drink. It's not easy to make.
Yeah. Okay.
No, exactly.
That's a good quote.
It's easier. It's easier to make Nebbiolo or Barolo, but Dolcetto.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, I definitely, it just reminded me that I'll talk to some producers from Doliani, which is of course the home of Dolcetto these days, but one of the homes I should say, but the most important home, I guess you could say. But moving on to Barbera, you make two, a Barbera d'Alba and a Barbera d'Alba Superiore, see?
Barbera d'Alba Il Ciotto and Barbera d'Alba Superiore. So Il Ciotto, it's Barbera, but maybe the style is more similar to the Dolcetto, so it's very fruity, more acidity than Dolcetto and Nebbiolo, but it's very pretty, vinous, is easier to drink than Superiore. Superiore, I think, is Superiore, so it's very, very elegant. 1 year in oak. The maturation is a little bit longer, so 10-15 days after the alcoholic fermentation in a still, and then 1 year in botte. Okay. Now, before for our Regia Veia was we used the tonneau. Okay, 500 liters. Okay. Now we are trying with botti. Last year, or no, this year in December, January, we bought 2 new botti from France. So the wood of the France is a little bit elegant and sweet than Slavony or Austrian, yeah, or Austrian wood. So for the Barbera, for me, is perfect. Also for the Barolo, but not in the first when the botte is new. After some year, is also good for the Barolo, but in the first years of the life of the botte is perfect for the Barbera Superiore.
Good. And what is the current vintage on the Barbera?
Where is the vineyard?
Nata.
Now
yes,
is in the bottle.
Yes.
Oh, in the bottle.
In the bottle that's available on the market.
Bottle 2018.
Which was.
18,
Let's talk
18.
Okay.
Yes, because it's really we prefer. Usually we start to sell the Superiore 1 year half later the harvest. Okay, late the harvest. After the harvest. For the 18, we started to sell before because the 17, the production was very, very small. And so we start to sell the Rechape 18 for this motivation. But usually we start to sell in September or October.
Okay. By the way, your importer in the United States, Soil Air, Nicole Heyman, just said hi. So ciao tutti. So let's talk about 2018 a little bit, since that's the current vintage on Barbera. And Sandro and I have visited a number of producers and tasted 2018 out of the barrel. This is last year. And everyone says this is just a terrific vintage. Do you want to comment on 2018 on that year?
Yes, with me or with Sandro?
Matteo, sì.
Oh, for me, the 18 is maybe I prefer, now Barolo is the 16. The 16 is amazing, super. The 18 was not terrible for me. Maybe the Barolo and the Nebbiolo in general haven't a big extractor, not a big extractor, but not very complex. But it's quite drinkable. It's depends. I remember was a big quantity, big grapes in the vineyard, but the wine maybe are elegant. I don't know if the acidity was not either. So I don't know in the future, but I think in the first year when after the bottling, the 18 was a drinkable vintage for me.
Okay.
So I prefer the 19 in general. Maybe in some area in the 19 there was the Hailstorm, is the Grandine. Is Hailstorm.
Hail, this is
The hail, yeah. And so not for everybody the 19 is good. But for us, for example, is good. We have the Hailstorm, the hail in Roquettevino single vineyard, so just below the restaurant.
Okay.
But for example, I remember the Gattera and the Arborina and Annunziata, the grapes was beautiful in the 19. 18 was good, but maybe the quantity of the water inside the grapes was a little bit high, too high for a complex Barolo. Yeah.
Sandro, you just put up a map of.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, and we are in.
Crew. So
go ahead, Joe. People where these vineyards are.
La Morra is here, and we are here. around here. This is the road that goes down from La Morra, and you're just here with the restaurant, and down here with the water.
We are in the winery. The cellar is in the south of La Morra, so between the single in the Annunziata. So we have we are between Arborina and Gattera single vineyard. Okay. So Arborina is below the cellar, so it's you know, the Arborina vineyard. This is Arborina. Okay, Arborina vineyard. Only 7 producer as Arborina cru. Okay, so maybe the most famous is Altare with Arborina. And Arborina, I love Arborina because it's a very typical La Morra Barolo. Okay, when you think La Morra, you think and drink Arborina, this is a Barolo from La Morra. Okay.
I tasted the Arborina last week, 2016, and it was not only a beautifully made wine, but it was so drinkable. It was so approachable, so elegant. And why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because it was, to me, that was part, you know, the quality of the vineyard and the quality of the fruit that you have, and your winemaking with a large cask with Botti. But it was just, part of that is also this vintage, 2016, is a very approachable vintage, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I prefer, for me, but it's my opinion. I prefer the 16, mostly for some wine. Other producer, I talk about with other producer, they prefer the 15 than 16. Depends. For me, I like the elegant wine. So the 16 are amazing. The wine, every wine, all the wine are very, very elegant, and with the tannins, the acidity are very balanced because the maturation was very regular and balanced. So the wine for me, the 16 is perfect.
Yeah, I like your term amazing. I've tasted a number of them, and it's it really does come across. There's such lovely balance to them, and I'm a fan of more elegant, more supple wines. And especially I would think with you being the winemaker, and you have the ristorante, you want to make wines that are going to go with food. You don't want to have wines. You're not worried about how many points you get, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other vineyards. Sandro, I got the importer here. Why don't we take that map down if we could for a second? So you also have Barbera from 2 other single vineyards, Rochette Vino and Gattera, which and also correct?
Yeah. Gattera, it's the oldest vineyard of Bovio. Okay, it's very close to Cordero di Montezemolo, and the vineyard is 1 hectare. This year, in the 19, we replanted half of this vineyard. Okay, so half vineyard is are 70 year old.
Oh, okay.
And the second half we replanted this year, so in the 19. Okay. In the future, I don't know now, but in the future, in a couple of years or maybe more, I think we will make a new label with Vecchie Viti of Gattera. Okay, maybe a reserve. I don't know, but for the moment, but for sure in the future will be a new wine with these old vines, because the vines and the maturation of this vineyard, the tannins is incredible. It's completely different to the other Nebbiolo vineyards.
Okay.
And if you make, a blind tasting of the Gattera with Barolo, for example, from Serralunga or Castiglione Falletto, if you drink Arborina or Rocchettevino or Rocche dell'Annunziata, you say, okay, this is La Morra wines, but Gattera, it's completely different. It's very complex because the soil is in the soil. There is more clay, more limestone. Is very calcareous soil, and so is different. It's youngest soil than Arborina or Annunziata. Okay, Gattera is the youngest the soil.
Okay. This is Gattera. This area of Gattera in the Mars.
Yeah.
Matteo, for people, the tourists. Matteo?
Yeah.
For tourists that have visited, this is the famous vineyard with the huge tree, the cedar of Lebanon tree. Yes.
The Sib, yeah.
Okay, which you can see from almost everywhere in the Barolo zone. So.
Yeah, it's very famous.
So you have mostly vineyards for the Barolo in the commune of La Morra, not far from the winery, and you also now have a new Barolo from Parussi in Castiglione Falletto. See?
Yeah, Castiglione Falletto. It's I think it's 1 kilometer from Gattera vineyard. So it's in the opposite of the valley.
If you can see the arrow, but Gattera is here and Parussi is here.
Exactly.
You can see the arrow.
Yeah.
Parussi here.
Parussi. It's for me. It's a new experience because my first vintage of Parussi is 16.
Okay.
Before me, they produced the Parussi Riserva, and the last vintage was 2004. Now we, Marco and Alessandro replanted the vineyard. So the first vintage for the Barolo is 16.
Okay.
It's a very incredible Barolo. It's little bit maybe spicy and balsamic than La Morra Barolo. Okay, the tannins when you bottle it, after the bottling, the tannin are a little bit dry than Gattera and Arborina.
Okay.
But in the future, will be a good experience to drink.
Okay, great. And you also produce a Riserva Barolo, see?
Riserva, yeah, it's new. The first vintage was 2013. So it's a blend of, in the 13 was a blend of Arborina and Gattera.
Okay.
The 15, we make the blend after the aging, so before the bottling, okay? So the aging for all our Barolo are 24 months, so 2 years in botti, okay? Also for the Riserva, okay, not more. I prefer the elegant wine, the soft Barolo. So for me, 2 years in oak, it's okay for an elegant Barolo.
Okay.
The 16 Riserva, the 15 will be Arborina, Gattera, and Parussi. But the 16 will be a mix of all for our single vineyard. Okay, so Parussi, Gattera, Arborina, and a little bit of Rocchettevino.
Okay. How many bottles total of Barolo do you produce per year?
Barolo 25,000, 27,000. Yeah.
Okay.
In total production 65,000.
And as far as your foreign markets, I'm sure that the United States is your most important, but what about other markets?
No, it's our first market is in the United States. We, I with Alessandra and Marco and my colleague Robert, we change the market completely the United States in the United States from 2016. So we started with Soiler and the other importer.
Yes.
Before they had just one importer in all the US.
Okay.
And then we export. We have a good market also in Italy, in our restaurant.
Of course, yeah.
And
that would be one place to find the wines, yes.
yeah. And also in Europe, in
of course.
In Europe.
Yeah. How many years have you been winemaker for Bovio?
In Bovio,
Si.
my first vintage was 2015.
Okay, and where were you before that?
Sottimano.
Sottimano, okay, of course, in Barbaresco. Okay.
In Barbaresco, yeah.
Okay. Were you born in Barbaresco, or were you?
I born in Alba.
In Alba, okay.
Alba, yeah. But I live in Treviso, so
okay.
Treviso is
very close,
very close to Barbaresco. Yeah.
Okay. Sandro, thanks for putting up those maps. Would you like to ask him a few questions in Italian for our Italian friends?
Sì, diciamo la percentuale più o meno del mercato italiano rispetto all'estero all'incirca quant'è per voi?
Per noi è circa un 40%.
Che ritengo molto importante. Molte aziende, ho notato, si sono dedicate esclusivamente al mercato estero, tralasciando quello italiano. In momenti come questo forse hanno più difficoltà, ma in generale essere forti sul mercato italiano significa anche avere un riconoscimento dal territorio, che è importante anche per avere un'alta posizione sul mercato estero. So I was asking, 80% on average, we export 80% of the Barolo. Okay? But of course, we produce many other wines in that same region. And I was asking him how big is the Italian market for you? And he said about 40%.
40%.
And I think it's a very, very important for us because, of course, Barolo was one of the first Italian wines to be exported and still is one of the most exported. But we should not forget the domestic market, because on one side, when we have times of crisis in the world, it's safer to have, also an asset in the domestic market. But apart from that, being known and reliable and consistent in the local market means that it's important also for the export market. If people come here and they know your wine in New York, but they come here and ask for Bovio and nobody knows who they are, it's not a good impression, for the customer. And so being reliable and being recognized as high quality in the local market is also important for that, for the brand.
Yeah.
Any other questions we have for him? Or? No, that's okay. Let's go back, since you have your wines at a restaurant, at Bovio Ristorante. Let's get your ideas on wine and food. So let's talk about all of your wines that you make, and in general what you would pair with them, but specifically something off the menu, because you have, as we talked about before, I mean, just an outstanding cuisine there. So let's start with the Chardonnay. What is on your menu that you would pair with the Chardonnay?
Chardonnay, so it's a very, I drink Chardonnay with appetizer in general, okay? Maybe, yeah, with fish too, but for me with fish are better the Chardonnay or the white in general, more fruity, okay? More easy to drink. Maybe our Chardonnay is better with appetizer and with cheese.
Okay.
I think with cheese is very good.
When you mentioned fish, I mean, people, I'm sure, don't think of fish when they think of Piemonte, but I've had some beautiful fish dishes. Orata, I remember, was one of them.
Yeah.
We had that with the Barolo, it was great. But what type of fish do you serve at the restaurant?
Oh, in the restaurant they had I don't remember now the menu, but they have maybe was capesante,
Scallops,
Scallops,
yeah,
right?
scallops.
yeah,
Okay.
and sometimes maybe branzino.
Okay.
What say in English branzino? I don't know.
No. No, but what I wanted to say is that Piemonte, of course, is not well known for the fish courses because we don't have the sea right here.
Right.
But we are not that far from the sea. And so in the past, all the kind of fishes that could be easily preserved and transported through the mountains were very common and still are very common. So it's true we don't have many fish dishes, but if you take tuna, anchovies, and codfish, the three kind of fish that have been always preserved in barrels under salt or dry,
Bacala.
Whatever, are bacala exactly, are absolutely common and absolutely iconic of our cuisine. Take the vitello tonnato, the many other. The anchovies are like in almost every Piedmontese dish has some anchovies inside.
Yeah, of
so
course.
yeah, it's true that we have this kind of fishes that are very, very typical from our cuisine.
Thanks. And, Matteo, Branzino is sea bass.
Yes, sea bass.
Yeah,
yeah.
One of the attendees, David, just
Sea bass.
just wrote that down. So I was going to say that. Yes,
now I know a new word in English.
There you go. Yeah, well, but a lot of people over here seem to know from Branzino. I mean, I have it quite a bit when I'm in the Veneto, and it's just fabulous. So it's probably my favorite fish from Italy. But so anyway, we have Branzino, and then how about for Dolcetto, which I can imagine there's many things you could pair with Dolcetto.
Dolcetto, I think with it's good with appetizer, but also with aperitif. Maybe in the summertime it's good drink dolcetto maybe at 15 degrees Celsius. Okay. So okay.
It's like chill. Okay.
Yeah, and with aperitivo or appetizer in general, but also with pasta, maybe with but delicate pasta, so a soft pasta, light, so not with ragu or with strong sauce, but with white pasta or with burro salvia, with butter and what is salvia?
Butter and sage.
Sage.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, dolcetto, and also the light Barbera too, the Barbera il Ciotto too, maybe.
Of course, the classic that I always tell people about with Barbera is because it has so much acidity, it just works beautiful. It just works beautifully with
maybe with acidity. Yes, with the pasta with a strong
sauce, right?
ragu. Yeah, so with bolognese, pasta with bolognese, or with sauces, ragu, meat and sauces, and yeah, because the acidity, come si dice, smorza il.
Smoothens down, it balances the strength of the dish.
Yeah, it's higher, and also with the salumi, you can cut through all the fat, so it works really well. So, Sandra, I know you love Barbera, and are there other food suggestions you would have?
Well, Barbera also with fish. The fishes we mentioned, like salmon or codfish or things that are kind of a little rich. Barbera is beautiful. It's very low in tannins, so doesn't clash with the proteins of the fish. In Agliano Terme, in the heart of the Barbera d'Asti region, they do a Barbera and Fish Festival, and in the Lofoten Island, they have a Barbera Festival up there. So,
you know, I've never had Barbera with fish. I'll have to try that. So, thank you.
And also another pairing that is maybe not considered so common. You mentioned the Chardonnay. Most of the time when you talk about pairing with truffles, but Barolo, the king of the wines, truffle, the king of the meal, you know. But in my opinion, your Chardonnay is amazing with truffle dishes, because truffle dishes are normally very delicate. Truffle is intense in terms of smell, but in terms of taste and structure of the dish, the dishes where you put truffle on are creamy, soft, well balanced, not too strong, not too acidic, and they fit perfectly with the great balance of your Chardonnay. So that's my favorite pairing, not with Barolo.
Sandro, thank you. For those of you watching, whether it's today or whether it'll be on YouTube on the video I'll make on this, many of you probably head to the Truffle Festival in Alba in October and November, and I'm assuming that everything will be fine by then, andrà tutto bene, that we'll be able to travel there. I guarantee you, yes, fingers crossed, I guarantee you, if you go to the Truffle Festival in Alba, you will see Sandro Manella at some point. I think he pretty much either rents a room or has a cot somewhere. He's there 24 hours a day. He's giving classes about everything, and he really is an authority on tartufi bianchi.
If there's something good to drink or eat, that you normally find me there.
That's a good philosophy. So, and then finally, Nebbiolo. You make it long in Nebbiolo, but let's talk about Nebbiolo or Barolo, and endless food pairings. But go ahead.
With everything.
Right.
Nebbiolo with meat, with white and red meat, with cheese. Okay, with cheese, Barolo and cheese for me are amazing.
And is that cheese more for a younger Barolo or an aged Barolo?
No, aged Barolo.
Okay.
Yeah, aged Barolo. Also young Barolo, but maybe young I prefer with white meat. So the chicken, okay, with Barolo. Young Barolo is better. With pork or with veal, I prefer aged Barolo. Yeah.
Okay.
In general.
My personal favorite, and Sandro, I'll ask you, but and I didn't eat it for years, but now I can't do without it. But it's coniglio brasato, braised rabbit. It's just my heavenly choice with Barolo. It just works beautifully. So,
okay.
How about some of your choices?
Well, honestly, a week ago I opened a 98 Barolo from great crew. All I had in my home was a pizza and a lobster, and I had them with Barolo. The Barolo was good, the pizza was good, and the lobster was good too, and I was super happy. So. That's my favorite combination, is the one that where all the things are good, the combination is good.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever had
Barolo is so balanced, you know. Barolo, a good Barolo, maybe not so much in the youngest years, but when it finds its best drinking window, it's so well balanced. Barolo is all about balance, you know. So when you have something balanced, you can put it with everything, provided that the food is good. And then the pairing will be fine.
It's a good point, and I agree with that. And Matteo, that's why I'm so thrilled. I try your Barolos, and like I said, the 2016 Arborina, for me, is ottimo. Just the finesse and the balance, and it's just. I think sometimes people think Barolo needs, no matter the vintage, 10 years before you can drink it, and that's not the case anymore, is it?
But now, in my opinion, if you make Barolo, the Barolo, when you bottle the wine, after 6, 7, maximum 1 year, the Barolo must be drinkable, because the people now, the client, the customer, the people in general, when they open a Barolo, they want to drink, because right now, maybe some years ago, I remember when I was younger and I tried for my first time the Barolo or the Nebbiolo in general, and some Barolo was very, very difficult to drink. Was good.
Yes.
Was good Barolo,
Yes.
but maybe you can put the wine into the glass and then wait 1 hour for drink a wine glass of Barolo.
Yeah, I remember I've been in the wine business for 40 years. So some 30 years ago when I was first trying Barolo, I mean, I was normally trying California wines, but when I first tried Barolo, I didn't quite understand the wines.
And then depends also the vineyard, but also the vintage, because some vintage, you can drink before, and some vintage later. Yeah.
Right. A vintage like 2013 is more powerful. It's going to need more time, whereas 15 is more approachable. 16 is beautiful right now. Sandro, go ahead.
I mean, 16 is beautiful now. It's beautiful in 10 years, in 20 years. Other vintages can be like, it doesn't have to be old time Barolo, okay? Just take 2013, for example, or 2010. When it came out, it was kind of harsh. Now it's beautiful.
Yes.
2016, it's beautiful now and then in 10 years. So it depends a lot on the vintage. And that the point is, why does it depend on the vintage? The point of why you age the Barolo is because the tannins when Barolo is young are a little bit harder. Okay, and so you say, okay, I'll put the bottle there. The tannins will ripen. The tannins ripen on the vines. The tannins are in the bunches, not in glass. Okay?
Right.
So you have the ripening of the polyphenols, so the tannins, as well as the sugars and everything else happens when the bunches are still attached to the vines. Once you cut it away, the tannins are those. They have ripened. Okay, they can better find their balance in the wine with everything else. But if you pick a Barolo where the tannins are green and bitter, when the Nebbiolo is picked, they will be the same after 50 years in the bottle. If they're perfectly sweet and smooth, okay, they can find a better balance with everything else. But they're good, just when you bottle the wine. So,
Matteo, getting back to your point about, the wines today are more drinkable than they used to be, 20, 30 years ago, which is my experience too. I think that's so important. And again, it does depend on the vintage, and 16 that's the great thing about this vintage. It's so delicious now, and then it will hold. We constantly have to find new customers. And I know, Nicole, you're watching. I know that's an important thing for you in your restaurants and retail stores you sell to. But we constantly have to find new customers. And you can kind of get them on a hook by somebody says it's 96 or 97 points and drink in 20 years. And that kind of gets them interested. And that's some of the notoriety or the celebrity status of big reds like Barolo. But younger people, especially, and even older people like me, I'm not old, but getting there. But we don't want to have a wine that's got so much tannin that it's difficult to find the fruit. That's the great thing about Barolo is as big a wine as it is, as tannic a wine as it is, it has finesse, it has charm, and the wines can be drunk right now, even without food. Obviously, they work better with food, but I think that's important that you make your wine this way, and I think it's you and other producers are seeing that right now, are realizing that philosophy. Any thoughts on that, Matteo? Anything else you want to say about it?
Sul fatto che questi 6 produttori hanno tutti un po' questa idea, no, del Barolo che comunque se è ben equilibrato può essere da giovane.
Aspetta,
pensi che ci siano molte differenze fra un produttore e l'altro su questo?
Mi sono perso un pezzo.
Sì, no, chiedevano se secondo te un po' tutti i produttori hanno quest'idea che il Barolo deve essere molto piacevole anche da giovane, o se ci sono punti di vista diversi su questo, no?
Non credo, credo che ci siano punti di vista diversi, nel senso che io, cioè, assaggiando anche alcune bottiglie in zona, senti ancora alcuni baroli che sono fatti in modo perfetto, cioè però che hanno bisogno di tempo per essere bevuti. Cioè, anche a me piace aprire una bottiglia di vino e lasciarla respirare, lasciarla ossigenare. Però se io apro una bottiglia di vino e quel vino mi piace subito, di primo acchito, di primo impatto, lo preferisco. Diciamo, per fare, solo poi chiudo, un nome, diciamo così, famoso che tutti possono conoscere, a me sono sempre piaciuti i vini e lo stile che lui ha sempre, secondo me, utilizzato, almeno da quando me lo ricordo io, è quello di Bruno Giacosa. Ecco, quello lì è un po' lo stile che a me piace, perché i vini hanno eleganza, forza, caratura, però sono vini che si possono bere nel tempo, ma anche subito, e molto, molto, molto eleganti.
So we're saying that, of course, there are different approaches. Different producers have a different approach on the style of Barolo. I was saying that for him, one that he always liked and he has as a sort of a reference is Bruno Giacosa, where his wines are, yes, wines that become amazing with the long aging, wines that you want to open and let them breathe and they will reveal something more, but they always have drinkability and elegance, which makes those wines absolutely outstanding and absolutely pleasant to drink also when they're young. And the other point, he was saying that, yes, I like to open an old bottle and have it breathe for 2 hours and maybe decant it and see what it comes out. But at the same time, if I open a bottle, I pour it and it's perfect. But the wine has something that's more appealing.
Yes, that's important.
So, for me, when I open a bottle of Barolo, I can wait some minutes before to drink, yes, but the wine must be clear and clean, mostly of the nose. Yeah, okay. Because it's a very, very important. You can wait because the wine, maybe the tannins are a little bit strong, a little bit difficult to drink, but the nose and the smell must be clear. Yes, yeah. For me, is the first primo. Non mi viene neanche in italiano.
First rule, the first.
Yes, the first rule. Okay.
Matteo, thank you. We are out of time. That's a good way to end, to talk about, drinkability with Barolos. So grazie per l'opportunità, buon lavoro.
Grazie.
Andrà tutto bene. Sandro, thank you very much for your help and for putting those maps up. I really appreciate it. I think it worked out very, very, very well. And
I really look forward to, it's nice to see you here, but I'm really looking forward to be the three of us around a table, and also all the attendees to this webinar. I hope we can have a big table all together. Thanks to technology that is putting us together, but being together around the table at Bovio would be the
best.
That's a nice wish, and maybe everybody who comes to Bovio who's watched the webinar can say, I watched the webinar in May, and they get a 10% discount, or maybe
of course.
How about that?
Okay. 10 discount is okay.
Well,
okay.
For me and this guy, 20%.
Of course. Okay, thank you. Yes. We don't want to get greedy, but okay. Ciao, ciao. Buona giornata.
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao.
Ciao.